Hello, this is me, Jeric.
And this is Apple.
Thank you for joining us in this session where we discuss having a joyful marriage before it begins.
You know, a lot of us, me included, were raised with the thought of, when you find a perfect person, you will live happily ever after. But is it true?
Happily ever after. Those Disney movies.
Are you saying something about Disney?
No, I'm not saying.
Hindi naman. But that kind of mentality is true. And some of us, even though they are beautiful and romantic, think that it also translates into reality.
Yes. And most engaged couples, because of this mentality, they prepare more for their wedding more than their marriage because that's what they see. That's what they see on media. Having lavish weddings is equivalent to joy in marriage or equivalent to a happy marriage, which is not the case, as we all know.
However beautiful the same-day edit may be of other couples, the thing is we need to be able to plan not just for the wedding day, but for the marriage of a lifetime. The lack of planning for this is the ultimate saboteur of marriage.
But we can predict a joyful marriage. How? You ask me? Well, more than ever before, we have the information, especially like now, you are attending this conference. This was not available before with the marriage of, let's say, our grandparents, our parents. Yung formation nila sa simbahan, it's not always complete that we have now, especially in dealing with the modern challenges that we have right now. Because marriage can be less of a mystery but a mastery of certain skills, which we hope to impart in this very short talk.
So the beautiful thing about it is that not only are we supplemented by the traditions and the lessons we learned from the previous generations, but by research done by experts in the field and by those who have dedicated their lives to be able to share techniques and ways to have a joyful marriage is readily available. In fact, without this self-awareness in pursuing a joyful marriage, we just let our emotions rule. Whatever we feel, that's how it goes.
Exactly. In his book, Love and Responsibility by St. John Paul II, he explains that when we are carried away by our emotions alone, he calls this sentimentality. It may hinder our ability to know the person as he or she really is because you are clouded by your feelings. In short, they basically have a filter on how they think about a certain person. And the other side of it is...
The other side of it is something called or something termed as sensuality. There is the physical, the sexual attraction that you have towards your partner. But sensuality in itself is not love. And in fact, sensuality or the physical attraction can become the opposite of what love needs to be in a joyful marriage.
That's true.
Too much of sensuality can lead to, hopefully I'm saying this correctly, utilitarianism.
Very good. What is utilitarianism? Langga.
This is when you perceive someone as a potential object of enjoyment. You look at their body as a way for you to experience the good things. We reduce rather the value of a person to only what you see in their physical quality.
We're not saying that these are bad, per se, but we're saying that if you approach relationships with only this in mind, with sensuality alone, with sentimentality alone, it can lead to dangerous grounds. It can lead to not a joyful marriage before it begins, but rather a disastrous marriage at the end of the road. And so what we aim in this particular short talk is that we have to have our head and our heart working together because God created them together as well, right? It builds also empathy, the ability to understand your partner and share the feelings of each other.
Isn't that what a real marriage is? It's not only what you feel at that particular moment, but it's also being able to have that relationship that you can understand the other person. It's being able to move on beyond what you feel.
Salamat, Langga. You were able to move on with all of my
Wala naman ang sinasabi. But this is the greatest relationship skill set that a couple can master. And it's so easy to say na, sige na lang, pag kinasal na kami, it's only when we're married that's when we'll work on it.
Sige, pag kinasal kami, tsaka ako babawi.
But it's important that even now, let's say you're listening right now and you're watching right now and you're not yet engaged, right now is the best time to be able to work on that particular skill set, how to be able to have real empathy, to choose to love the other person despite how you feel at that particular moment.
Because at the end of it all, marriage is a God-honoring covenant. You're not doing it for the both of you alone, but also you are saying your vows to God. You're promising this covenant before Him. And so it's very important for us to note this, that sensuality and sentimentality alone, more so our selfishness with one another, is not the way to go. It's not love. It's not love per se. But it can be raw materials to finding true love.
Having this physical attraction and having this emotional attraction to your partner, it's beautiful in itself, but for it to become fully grown, for it to become sustainable for the rest of your married life together, it should be supplemented by something more, something greater, something nobler. These are the elements of love na maybe we may not pay attention to it at first because it doesn't sound as romantic. Things like friendship, real friendship, virtue,
total commitment,
self-giving love, sacrifice. This may not be written in our Disney stories. This may not be written in a romance novel.
Might seem boring.
It may seem boring at
first. May seem ordinary.
But it's actually these ordinary things that are truly going to make your love, your marriage extraordinary. And how do we do this? It's when we understand that the covenant of marriage is not just you and your partner. It's how Venerable Fulton Sheen would say, you need 3 to get married.
Exactly. And I have to correct myself. I just said finding true love, but more so when we consider this covenant that we're trying to get into, this raw materials is not actually just for finding, but rather for developing. It's for the development of true love. And I hope that we yearn for this. These were given to us by God, not as something to be put in away. Because pag ganito, usually sinasabi natin, masama to nararamdam ko, hindi to godly. It's not that. We don't want you to also be, ang tawag dun sa sin na yun, scrupulous. We don't want you to be scrupulous and say that, the body is bad or these desires are bad. But rather, we want to be able to point you towards what Galatians chapter 5 verse 22 to 23 said.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things, there is no law. This is where we allow ourselves to redirect, the attraction we have for our partner towards heaven. Because when we allow ourselves to live God's way, especially in our relationship, He Himself brings these fruits in our lives in the way now when you plant the right seeds. For example, an apple seed, you would get an apple tree and you'll be able to harvest an apple tree. So when you plant the seeds of the fruits of the Spirit, these beautiful things such as affection for others, being very excited, very, very exuberant about life,
having peace
and true serenity. That's right, real peace. This comes up in your relationship. This comes up in your marriage because you planted the right seeds.
And when we desire these gifts that we ask the Holy Spirit to give us, we also develop a willingness to commit to the marriage, a willingness to stick with the things that matter the most, and a sense of compassion that we truly need, especially in this time that we're in. Brothers and sisters, we may find ourselves that we're lost, that there is no hope for such things, that there is no joy after the honeymoon period. But when we become involved, when we cooperate with the grace of God, when we cooperate with the gifts that we are asking, we will find ourselves in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life. We'll be able to navigate this life with much joy, even amidst the struggles.
You may be asking yourselves, why am I in this session? I don't even have a partner yet. But this is where we are advocates that the vocation preparation, preparing for your future marriage, doesn't require you to have a partner, because these fruits of the Spirit can blossom in your life even without a partner, because the Spirit wants to work on you, wants to work on your heart. And if it is His will that you would enter into vocation of marriage, you would be able to bring these fruits already. So allow these seeds to be planted in your heart right now. Allow the Spirit to work through you right now, whether or not you have a partner, whether you're not engaged, or whether you're married yet.
Exactly. You can find joy in marriage before it begins by planting the right seeds. But more so, allow it to grow. This is me, Jeric.
And this is Apple.
Always reminding you
Na pananggakas ang Diyos.